All right, so get this. Today, we're going deep on something that could seriously change the way you connect with people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking relationships, communication, even your influence, like how you get people on board with things.
Okay. I'm listening.
We're breaking down this book, Validation by Caroline Fleck.
Validation. Huh. Interesting.
It's like a guide to really getting people on like a deeper level.
You know, it's funny because a lot of people think validation is just like agreeing with someone or, being super positive all the time.
Right. Just like, yeah, you're right, totally.
Exactly. But Dr. Fleck is saying it's way more than that.
Yeah, what is it then?
It's about truly seeing someone's experience and their emotions, even if you don't see it the same way.
So instead of jumping in to fix things or give advice, you're saying like, hey, I get why you feel that way from where you're standing.
Yeah, like that.
But okay, why is that so powerful? It can't just be about good vibes, right?
Definitely not. And this is where the science comes in. It's actually really interesting.
Okay, hit me.
Dr. Fleck explains that when we feel dismissed, it triggers these stress hormones like cortisol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like our brain goes into fight or flight mode.
Oh, so we can't think straight.
Right. It's harder to think clearly or connect with others when that's happening.
So it's not just that being dismissive feels bad, it like messes with our brains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But get this, when someone validates us, even without agreeing, our brains release oxytocin.
Oxytocin, isn't that the...
It's the bonding hormone.
Right, bonding hormone.
Exactly. It's like a biological shortcut to feeling safe, connected, and ready to really engage.
Okay, so this isn't just being nice, it's like literally changing our brain chemistry.
That's right.
No wonder it affects so many things, like relationships, work, all of that.
And the book has all these studies showing how it plays out.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like kids who feel validated, they tend to be more resilient.
That makes sense.
And couples who feel validated, they have less conflict.
Oh, that's a good one.
And get this, in the workplace, when bosses validate their employees, they're more engaged and productive.
Wait, really? I would have thought, like, acknowledging struggles would make people less motivated.
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But the research shows the opposite.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
Okay, so we're seeing it everywhere, this validation thing.
Yeah.
And there's that stat that blew my mind. You know, couples who use validation during arguments are 30% more likely to resolve them peacefully.
30%.
That's huge.
I know, right?
I know.
Especially for someone like me who hates conflict.
Yeah, it's a big deal. What's important about that stat is it shows a shift from winning an argument to understanding each other.
So it's not about ignoring problems.
No, not at all. It's about changing how we approach them.
So instead of like digging our heels in, we're making a space where both sides can be heard, even if they disagree.
That's it.
But how do we actually do that? Being validating sounds good, but where do we start?
Well, that's where Dr. Fleck's validation toolkit comes in.
A toolkit, huh?
Yeah, she breaks this complex idea into 8 practical skills.
8 skills. Okay, so it's not magic, but it's something anyone can learn.
All right, let's get into this toolkit. What's the first tool we should be grabbing?
The foundation of it all is active listening.
Active listening. Okay, I've heard of that, but what's that really mean?
It's not just hearing words. It's really tuning into what the other person is saying, how they're saying it, and the emotions behind the words.
Like you're turning up the volume on empathy.
Yeah, you're trying to see things from their side.
Got it.
And to make sure you're both on the same page, you reflect back what you heard.
Oh, so you're not just like parroting them.
No, it's about showing that you understand.
Okay.
You might say something like, "It sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed with everything on your plate right now."
So by reflecting back, you're not just passively listening, you're actively showing them. You get it.
Exactly.
That's powerful. And it makes me think, when was the last time someone really listened to me without interrupting or giving advice or judging?
It's rare, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But that's just one of the 8 skills, right? What else is in this toolkit?
This is where it gets really interesting. Dr. Fleck goes beyond just listening. She gives us tools to go deeper into the emotions of our conversations.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. So we've got active listening and reflecting back. Those seem pretty basic for like, having a real conversation.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But I want to get into the tools for that emotional stuff you mentioned.
Right. And the next one in the toolkit speaks to that. It's called naming the emotion.
Naming the emotion. Okay, that sounds kind of straightforward.
It is. It's about actually saying the emotion that the other person is expressing.
So instead of I hear you, you're saying, you sound really frustrated like that.
You got it. And remember we talked about cortisol and that fight or flight thing when we feel dismissed?
Yeah.
Naming the emotion can actually help regulate those stress hormones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like you're saying, I see how you're feeling, and it's okay.
So you're not just hearing their words, but like validating the feeling behind them?
Exactly.
That makes sense, especially when things are heated, emotions are high. But what if the other person doesn't even know what they're feeling? Or they're calling it the wrong thing?
That's where your active listening comes in. You're not telling them how to feel, but you're offering an observation based on what you're hearing and seeing.
Oh,
Like you might say, you seem to be holding back a lot of anger. Is that right? Or, you say you're fine, but I'm sensing a lot of sadness.
okay. So careful observation, not jumping to conclusions. I like that. It feels respectful,
Yeah.
especially with touchy subjects. But what about when their feelings are totally off base? Like, what if they're mad about something that's their own fault?
That's where normalizing comes in. It's not about saying what they did was right, but about helping them feel less alone in their experience.
Even if their reaction isn't the best?
Right. You might say, it's totally normal to feel angry when you've been let down, or anyone in your shoes would be upset right now.
I see how that could de-escalate things. Instead of making it worse, you're offering understanding.
And it's important to remember, normalizing isn't about letting people off the hook.
Mm.
If there are consequences, they still need to happen.
Right, of course.
But you can do that while still validating how they feel.
So you separate the person from the action? Like you can disagree with what they did, but still get why they feel that way. That's pretty nuanced.
And that's what makes validation so powerful. It allows for things to be complex.
Not just good guy, bad guy.
Exactly.
It's like recognizing that everyone's experience is valid, even if their actions aren't always public. But I'm curious about those times when we just want to fix things.
Yeah.
How do we not take over the conversation when we're trying to help?
That's where staying present comes in. It's about resisting that urge to offer solutions or advice or even your own stories unless they ask for it.
So you're just there with them,
In that moment.
not trying to change things.
Right. And that could be tough, especially for people who are natural fixers.
Yeah.
But sometimes the most validating thing is just listening with empathy.
It takes a lot of self-awareness, huh? Being mindful of your own impulses and focusing on what they need.
For sure. It's recognizing that sometimes people just need to be heard, to vent, to process before they're ready to solve anything.
And by not trying to fix it, you're showing them you trust them to handle their own stuff, even if it takes time.
It's a big sign of respect.
That makes me think about how we always rush to fill the silence, but maybe those quiet moments are when they feel really seen and heard.
This is a good point.
It's like slow down, be present, let them lead.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're being present, not trying to fix it, but what about when we do want to offer support, like encouragement or a different perspective?
Dr. Fleck talks about that too. It's not about staying quiet forever, but about timing and approach. There's a skill called acknowledging effort,
Acknowledging effort. Okay.
and that can be super validating, especially when someone's having a hard time.
So like, I see how hard you're working at this, even though it's tough right now.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just effort. You're acknowledging their strengths, their resilience, their commitment, even when they don't see it themselves.
That could really lift someone up when they're feeling defeated.
It reminds them that their efforts matter.
And it's about the journey, not just the destination.
Right. You're on the right track. Keep going.
I love that. It's like you're on their team, not telling them what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another skill, asking questions. But not just any questions. These are open-ended questions to help them explore their feelings and experiences more deeply.
So instead of, why are you so upset about this? It's, tell me more about what's making you feel so upset.
Yeah, like that you're showing genuine curiosity and wanting to understand.
It's like inviting them to share without judgment.
Exactly. And that deep listening can be really validating. It shows that you care about their thoughts and feelings and their view of things.
Okay, so we've covered active listening, reflecting back, naming the emotion, normalizing staying present, acknowledging effort, and asking questions. That's a lot. But what about validating ourselves?
That's the key. That's where it all starts.
So you're saying we need to be able to validate ourselves before we can validate others.
Yeah, it's like you can't give what you don't have.
It's like we got to build up that self-compassion muscle first.
Exactly. And Dr. Fleck gives us a good way to do that.
Okay, how?
It starts with noticing that inner critic. You know, that voice that's always judging us.
Oh yeah, that voice can be so loud sometimes, especially when I mess up or things don't go my way.
It's easy to get stuck in that negative self-talk.
Totally.
But the thing is, we don't have to believe everything that voice says.
Oh, that's good.
We can challenge those thoughts and replace them with more supportive ones.
Yeah. So instead of beating myself up for a mistake, I can be kind to myself like I would be to a friend.
Yeah, imagine a friend comes to you feeling bad about something they did. You wouldn't call them names or put them down, right?
No way. I'd try to be there for them and remind them that everyone makes mistakes.
And that's what we need to do for ourselves, too. Be our own best friend.
Give ourselves a break.
Exactly. Offer understanding and encouragement even when we fall short.
It's so easy to be hard on ourselves, though. Like, we expect to be perfect at everything.
And that just sets us up for failure.
Yeah.
Self-validation is about embracing our imperfections.
Knowing we're all works in progress.
Right. And celebrating our efforts even when we don't get the results we want.
It's like giving ourselves permission to be human, with all the messiness that comes with it.
Exactly. And the more we practice that, the easier it becomes to validate others. It's like building a well of compassion that we can share with the world.
Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the skills now. How do we put this into practice? What can people do starting today?
I think a good first step is to pick one skill from the toolkit and really try to use it this week.
Just one. Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's active listening, maybe it's naming the emotion, or just being present without giving solutions. See how it feels.
Start small and build from there.
Exactly. And be patient. It takes time to change habits, but you'll start to notice a difference in your conversations.
People will probably respond better when they feel heard.
Right. And don't be afraid to try different skills in different situations.
Yeah.
What works with your coworker might not work with your partner or your kids.
Different tools for different jobs.
And remember, validation isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. It's about being mindful, compassionate, and responsive to the person you're with.
Creating a safe space where you can really connect.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more you'll see it's not just about making others feel better, it's about building stronger relationships and a more compassionate world.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into validation by Caroline Fleck, we hope you'll take these ideas and make them your own.
Try out the skills, embrace the challenges, celebrate the little wins along the way.
Because even small acts of validation can make a big difference.
They really can. They can make the world a more understanding and compassionate place.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. In a world that feels so divided, validation is a powerful thing.
It reminds us that we're all connected.
That even when we disagree, we're all human.
So go out there and start validating. Validate your loved ones, validate your colleagues, validate yourself.
You might be surprised by what happens.
You might be.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep searching for those bits of wisdom that can make your life and the lives of those around you better.